Daily stock market update, looking at the newswires and the US and European markets. Now, the S&P 500 is on track for a record new all-time high. This is off the back of growing confidence about the US economy, the prospects of an interest rate cut. It is finally balanced. The Indian central bank reduced interest rates today and used the Goldilocks analogy that they're in this sweet spot of not too hot, not too cold. And it is a balancing act, a bit like riding a bike. The US is at that stage at the moment. There's a lot wrong, there's a lot right. It's in the middle, and that will keep stocks fueling, as well as the profits of the underlying companies between earnings. Remember, the Americans issue earnings every quarter. In between that, you could call it almost the silly rumor season. There aren't negative rumors. That's positive. Copper is at an all-time record high. You know, for the people who are asking me, should you buy gold? I think over the longer term, copper would be an equally good diversifier. But you probably don't want too much of these commodities in your portfolio. I think under 5% is the sensible number. The other things which caught my eye, BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust, so that's their exchange traded fund with Bitcoin as the target. That's had a lot of withdrawals, in other words, a lot of sales. It debuted in January 2024. The idea was that will cause Bitcoin to soar, and of course, Bitcoin's volatile. Unless it gets to about $50,000 US, as I've said before, I'm not particularly interested. Ukraine, Russia, India. The Russia-India meetings, which have just gone on, is probably pretty good news for the stock market, because the Russians continue funding India, which is the fourth largest economy in the world and growing at 8% per annum. Then that should be good for global stocks generally, because the Indians will use that money to buy more American profitable companies and the like. The war in Ukraine is not impacting the stock market. The lack of a peace deal isn't impacting the stock market either. And oil prices still remain well below $80. So what about the other big movers? HP Enterprise, never been one on our list, which has met our targets. When we look through 10,000 companies and we break it down, that's fallen 8.3% because they issued a sales outlook which fell short of expectations. Expectations are high anyway. HP is not going to be one of those you'd expect to beat expectations, only because it's not in the AI space. It's going to fall behind somewhat as well. Cloudflare, it's off a little bit. That's just noise. It's also never ticked all our boxes of value, growth, income, cash flow. Sortino. Ocado, 16% up in the UK market. They received a $350 million cash payment from the American company Kroger, just because of essentially a breach of contract, a settlement on a breach of contract. That's not a bad sum, 16% up. But remember, that's a one-off payment. Now, of course, that might be beneficial to Ocado and change their direction, but without more, a single event is not a reason to buy into a company. However, with that kind of a cash pile, that could be what you and I would call life-altering, but nevertheless, it is pretty good news there. In terms of some of the biggest movers, looking at CNBC and Bloomberg, and this is, of course, the 5th of December before US market open. The biggest ones, Dollar General up 14%. Dollar General, really, think of Poundland. So you got the bottom end of the market, not just the AI end, but you got the bottom end doing well. Intel, which earlier this week had done so well, and I said is very volatile and therefore not one for me, is down now 7.4%. SanDisk is up 10%. The reason that's important is because there are stories on the wires about how the top 10 performing stocks since November till now, so in the last month, have switched from the ones which had been the big performers since the April bottom. So SanDisk, which is up 443% from April to end of October, Robinhood up 328%, Western Digital 296%, Micron 239%, Seagate 235%, AMD, which I do own, up 230%, Warner Brothers 173, AppLovin up 166, Lam Research, one which we keep a close eye on, 158% up, and Palantir, also one we keep a close eye on, 145% up. Those big movers, the idea is they're taking a bit of a breather now and being replaced to some extent over the past month by a new set of big risers, call it sector rotation or whatever you wish. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think this means and what the strategy ought to be. Albemarle is up 33%. This is just in the past month. Teradyne 32% up. It's one which we've owned before, not at the moment. Western Digital 28, Eli Lilly up 28% is one which we own. Cardinal Health 26, CH Robinson 25. Now, I don't chase sector rotation or sector names. Having a broad basket of relatively uncorrelated stocks will provide some degree of resilience. So will undervalued companies which are growing. By undervalued, I mean lots of profits for the price I'm paying for them. So if I'm paying $28 to buy a stock for every future dollar of profit, then that's going to be well valued based on its historical metrics, I'm going to ensure, and compared to its peers, whatever that stock is. By the way, that's the number for NVIDIA. You pay $28 for every dollar of profits they're projected to make. Think of it another way. You buy a rental property which is generating $1 of rent a year, and you've just paid $28 to buy the whole building. And you look at the other houses in the area and you say, well, wait a minute, they're more expensive. And you look at what that house has been worth historically and you say, hey, it's been worth more than this historically. That's one way of measuring valuation. But valuation is not the only factor which causes stock prices to move. So does growth, of course, as well. The point being, if you're looking at bottom up, then these stocks and the fact that there might be a temporary rotation doesn't mean you go chasing momentum in any event. It means you stick to the longer term plan, unless you fancy yourself as a trader, which I wouldn't recommend. So what else have we got on the news? I've just got to move some of these things out of the way so I can go through some of the other news. It was a quiet market on Thursday going into Friday's open, partly because of mixed signals from the Fed. Are they going to cut? Are they not going to cut? As I've said, as long as that indecision remains, it's good news because the market is just bubbling ahead. It could be bad news when it's uncertain, but it just goes to show everything has two interpretations in the market and it depends on the context at the time. Before I continue, don't forget to have a look at alpeshpatel.com/links for a whole ton of free resources and tools. Labor market, jobless claims. Okay, the jobless claims fell to their lowest level since 2022 in America. That's buoyant for the market, but it's not so buoyant that you think there's going to be no more interest rates. It's that fine Goldilocks balance, as I mentioned earlier. And what we're really looking for is that indecision to remain. My worry is if there's a cut, then the market sentiment becomes there'll be no more cuts for a long time. Let's sell out of equities. That, you may say, is irrational. The market's job is not to be rational, it's to make money. And they're not necessarily the same thing. So ideally, I'd actually want a cut in December because then that'll keep things tagging along for January. And I want a good start to January. Okay. Looking at the UK, again, futures flat, slightly higher, markets fairly quiet, obviously waiting for the American Open. It's a Friday, so nobody's going to take big bets over the weekend. Not that we're expecting anything dramatic to happen over the weekend, famous last words. In terms of gold, 4,200, mildly higher, still holding its pace. Still got a lot of people saying, should we be buying gold even at these nosebleed levels? As I said, the gold refiner person I spoke to, he thinks it's going to be 16% higher in a couple of months. Copper, Citigroup also upgraded their outlook for copper, which, as I said, is at all-time highs, a reflection of global growth. Bitcoin now at $92,000 to $92,500. So maybe I missed my opportunity to buy the dip. But given the holdings that I have, I really wanted a significant fall, like to $50,000 before I was looking to get in. So either way, I'm fine. I didn't want to buy more at the price it was selling at say 78 or 70. But I would consider it at 50. Otherwise, I'll just keep holding what I've got in any event. And that's the way I want to look at these kind of investments. I've got a webinar coming later today. Whenever you want to sign up to my webinars or see a replay of the last one, it's always alpeshpatel.com/latest shares. latest shares. alpeshpatel.com/latest shares. Now, my request, as always is the case, these daily stock market updates have been very, very popular. Some have gone to 18,000 views. I want them each time to have at least a minimum of 3,000 views, if you don't mind. So I'm going to ask something from you. I'm going to give these, obviously, for free. Take my time to analyze things and put it all into a good, coherent, and hopefully useful manner for you all. In exchange, all I ask, free for you as well, is just save the videos or comment or like or do all of these things or share them on your post or forward them to one other person. The reason is all of these things in the TikTok and YouTube algorithms lead those videos to be seen by more people. If they're seen by at least 3,000, then I know I'm not speaking to an empty room and I do more of them. I know I repeat myself at the end of each of these, but I feel that when you want something and you ask for it, hopefully people will grant you it and then we all win. You win because you get more of these videos. I win because I get more people watching them, so I know it's not a waste of my time. And the extra people who get to see them as a result of your actions, they win as well. Okay, so small little action that I'd ask you to do is, as my son would say, hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube and the comment and the like, equally forward and equally on TikTok. If you save it, if you repost it, if you share it with someone, those count really high. Of course, the dopamine hit of you liking it and commenting, I personally appreciate if you would comment and like as well, because it gives me useful feedback and lets me know that I'm not drifting from the style that I have and the style of presentation that you want. So thank you all very much for watching these, and I'll keep you updated with more. Thank you.